Let's do another one of our imaginary classes. So pretend that this is not a branch, but a tree that you found in a nursery. So there is a root down here. Just use your imagination. The backside is much easier to visualize. So we're going to take the first step into making this a bonsai, or bonsai of the future. So what do we do? Well, remember, always roof layer that we don't have is imagined. So let's just say it has a perfect roof layer. And then you got movement somehow, and we're going to have to do the movement and taper simultaneously. So let's go ahead and see what we could do with this guy. So what I'm thinking is this is good, and somehow it gets lost up there. So what do we do? I'll give you a chance to think. Before we start, bonsai is an art form, and there's no absolute, right? And so there's things that I like to do, may not be what you want to do. So what I'm thinking is this is uninteresting, so I'm going to cut this side off. That's removed, right? So now I was going to go up this way, but doggone it, there's nothing in between here. So what to do off, and then I have this, but there's nothing in between. And I think we talked before, if there's no live needles, if I cut somewhere here, then nothing will happen. So, we got a problem on our hands. So this process we're going through is very typical of when we get started in bonsai. Now, I know for sure this doesn't belong, so I'm going to take that off. And what I see is right behind this branch that I'm not happy with is a nicer one. So let's cut that off. You see right here, the nicer one? So I'm going to take this. Well, let me go ahead and clean this up so it look a little bit better for you. A little bit better. I mean, if this was for real, I would take more time. Okay, now I'm going to go back and to say, what do I do? Okay, let's turn it around. And this side actually is very confusing because it has so many branches, right? But I'll go ahead and make some cuts and then let you see again. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is go ahead and sort of finish up just so you could see better, okay? There's a lot of stuff in there that needs to come off. I did take that big branch that was over here. There was no use for it, so I took it off. But anyway, I'll go ahead and more or less finish this up so that you'll see what I'm... Okay, so what I did was our roof layer that's missing. So, well, when you do sketches, it's so much easier. So let's hope that there was a nice roof layer. And this is, I wish there was a branch here. This part and this part is so similar that we need a sacrifice branch down here to fatten that up. So that if we had that branch, this part will be more like that. Then it'll be a great taper, right? So always keep in mind when you're working, have a good roof layer, good taper, and good movement. And then on the subject of movement, I left this one and this one in terms of the new apex. And I think I like this one here. It has a better movement, but because I cut off so much, I left both. But you shouldn't keep it too long. Probably another year, once these get very vigorous and start to grow, then I think it should be done. And most likely, I'm leaning towards keeping this and get rid of that. But that's not bad either. So, you know, it's still got that two options. One of the weak spots was this branch here. I wish there was more live green, then I would have cut it shorter, but most likely this should work out. And there's other little branches left in place in case something don't work out. But this is a good example of how you go about developing a Japanese black pine for the future. Now, this is imaginary and it's from a branch. But you know, this technique will work well for you, especially if you live in a very small place and don't have room for a lot of things. Another thing too, it's very economical and stress-free because it's not a live plant. Even if you got this plant really economically, it's also a live plant. So, you know, having to do some harsh things, you're quite often reluctant. So if you could get branches and just go through the process that we just went through, I think you could get better much faster. One of my teachers, Mr. Kawamoto, was telling me, when you work on something, you got to do 100 of the same subject. Well, most of you don't have room for 100 black pines, but you could get, if you're lucky, 100 branches that you could make. And then when you get the confidence of how to shape it, then you could go out and get a live tree, okay? So anyway, this was a little quick lesson indoors, because when I try to teach you from outside, it's very difficult to see the little details that we need to know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please tell your friends and subscribe.